So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to represent functions as graphs. It's section 1-7, which means it's chapter 1, section 7. We're still working on the 4 standards that are there. Primarily, we're going to work with tables of functions and graphs of functions, right? So some things to keep in mind. You can use a graph to represent a function. And we've been graphing equations all along. And remember, we said a function is a special type of equation, right? Special type of graph. In a given table, each corresponding pair of input and output value forms an ordered pair. What does that mean? Well, my x is my input, my y is my output. That's correct. And I can put them as an ordered pair. We know that. We can take a table of input-output values and make ordered pairs. An ordered pair can be plotted, meaning I can put it in a graph. The x-coordinate is the input, okay? And it corresponds to the horizontal axis, because remember the horizontal axis is your x-axis. And then your y-coordinate is your output most of the time. And that's your vertical axis. That's the one that goes up and down. Okay? All right, let's go to this example. Notice it says to graph a function. This is going to be a lot like your homework today. And then they're going to give you an equation. Now, right away, you should kind of know what to do, because we've been doing this stuff. And if you've been doing your homework right along, you're going to be like, oh, sweet. I so know how to do this. It's a piece of cake. All right. We're going to make an H table. And we're going to plug in values like we have been doing. Now, the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is I got a lot of students, you're not showing the correct steps. Like, you're not showing all the work. Make sure you show all your work, or you're going to get your assignment back, and I'm going to ask you to please include that work. Right? So I've got an x. I've got y equals x plus 1. I got my y, and I'm going to plug in my domains. So 1, answer's 2. Draw my line across. Notice that kind of separates your work. It really helps with organization. 2, y equals 2 plus 1, y equals 3. And finally, I'm going to plug in 3. Now, did I choose my domain? Did I choose 1, 2, and 3? I did not, did I? Okay. So step 1 is your H table. It's making your table. And then it asks you to plot your points. So we're going to go ahead and go to your graph. The graph is 1, 2, 2, 3, and 3, 4. Now, when you do these for your assignment, please darken in your X and Y axes. Real dark. Some of you, you're just barely touching that line, and it's really difficult to see your X and Y axes. Another thing, you could use a highlighter. I've showed you all how to use a highlighter in doing that. I've noticed a lot of kids, when you do this, it's very effective for X and Y axes. Make sure your axes have arrows, and make sure you label your axes. All right, make sure that you do that. If we don't, it's going to be, I'm going to start handing things back. So I want you to do that. I want you to get in the habit of doing it. It's really important, especially when you get to the higher levels. All right. Now, my question is this. Do I connect my dots? No. I do not. Why don't I connect those dots? Yes. Correct. The domain was given to me, and they were given to me as numbers, weren't they? Right? So very good. We're going to leave them as dots, even though we want to connect them, right? We like those pretty pictures. You are not going to. Also notice that those dots, they kind of form a line, don't they? Right now, if they do not form some sort of like line, you did something wrong. And so I would go back into your algebra and see what you did wrong. They should kind of form a line, even though we don't connect them. Questions? All right, and you'll notice I answered the question or answered the problem. It says graph the function. I did that. Did it ask me for the range? No, it did not. So I do not need to list that today. Okay. Let's move on. Right, here's example 2. It is asking me to write a function rule for the function and then identify the domain and range of the function, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to make a table. Step one. Now, you can make the table horizontal or you can make it vertical. It doesn't matter, right? Why didn't I have to make an H table for this? Why is a T table okay? They call this a T table, okay? Why would I do that type of table as opposed to this type of table? Yeah. You don't have an equation, so is there any work to get your ordered pairs? There's no work to get those ordered pairs. That's right. So if there's no work, there's no equation, you can make a T table. That's just fine, right? So let's look at the ordered pairs. The first ordered pair is 1, 0, okay? 1, 0, and then I draw a line to separate them. The next ordered pair is
1, 3.
2, 3. The next ordered pair would be 3, 6. And the last one, 4, 9. 4, 9. Okay. Next step. Asks me to find the relationship between the input and output. What do I do to the input to get the output? And that's that question again. What do I do to the input to get the output? And we've done this before. Okay, so look at that relationship. What do you think I do? Yeah. Okay, I like what you just said. He said x plus 1 and y plus 3. So you're saying to go from 1 to 2, I add 1. And then 2 to 3, I add 1, right? And then 0 to 3 is adding 3. 3 to 6 is adding 3. That is correct. And you can find more values on the table, yes? But did you find the relationship between the x and the y? You did not. Okay, so I'm glad you did that because that's what a lot of students do. If you want to extend the table, that's what you do. You look at the relationships of the x, you look at the relationships of the y, but that's not what we're asking for here. We're asking for what do I do to the 1 to get the 0, or the 2 to get the 3, or the 3 to get the 6. What did I do to those numbers? Now, if you look at it, is it straight like adding? Do I add something to 1 to get 0? No. Do I subtract something? I could say minus 1, right? But if I do 2 minus 1, do I get 3? No. How about division? 1 divided by 1 is 0, so 2 divided by 1, does that give me 3? No. So it's not something real easy and straight. So this is where, if I were you, I'd get out that calculator and I'd start playing with it. I need to then either multiply or divide and then add or subtract. Okay? We can go, how about 2 times 1, which is 2, minus 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 minus 2 would be 2. Okay, that didn't work. How about 3 times 1? 3 times 1 is 3, subtract 3, and I get 0. 2 times 3 is, minus 3 is, hey, 3 times 3 is 9, minus 3 is 6. Oh, I think we got it. 4 times 3 is 12 minus 3 is 9. Do you see how I did that? So you can use your calculator and kind of help you with that. So I multiply x by 3 and subtract 3. That's what I did. Now I need to write that as a function rule. So how do I write that as a rule or an equation? Yes. Excellent. Y equals 3x minus 3. Very good. Do you see how the things that you have been doing the past couple of days are helping you with this? That's why it's so important to keep up on your skills. When Mrs. Medvick asks you to practice, practice it, because then you have something when we go on, right? Now, did I totally answer that question? Go to the very beginning. It asked me to write a function rule. Did I do that? Yes. And then did I identify the domain and range? I did not. Okay, so I need to identify the domain and range. So let's go back here and let's identify the domain and range. So I'm going to write domain. And what would that be? Very good. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my range is going to be what? 0, 3, 6, 9. Now, did I complete the problem? Yes, I did. And that's really important. In any math class, in anything that you do, go through it, but then go back up to the original problem and see, did I complete everything I was supposed to? Because a lot of you would do a beautiful job, but forget that last step, and then you get it wrong. And it's like, well, why did I get it wrong? I got it right. You didn't complete it. Questions? Okay. Last slide. Ways to represent a function, okay? One way is a verbal rule, and we've seen this before. The output is 1 less than twice the input. It's just a bunch of words, right? Number 2 is the equation. Right? Notice that I took all those words and I put it into symbols. Output, which is my y, is the equals. 1 less than twice the input. Right? And you had that on your last quiz. That's why it's really important to make sure you understand that material, because now I'm using it. I can make a table with this equation, and then I can take that table and I can make a graph. Right? So notice how I'm taking a simple verbal rule or a simple equation, and I can turn it into a table or a graph. So a great test question would be, name 3 ways that a function can be represented. And you could choose 3 of any of the 4. That would be a great test question, right? And if you think about it, okay, I'm given an equation, what do I do with it? Questions? All right, here we go. Your love for today. The love of knowledge, here it is. We're going to do page 46. And I'm going to have you do problems 3 through 7 odd, 10 through 13, and 16. And you should be able to complete this during class today. The extra time, if you have extra time, what could you do? What could you do if you're totally done? Read or do other homework or finish your old math assignments, right? Get that done. Please, when you do your homework, all right, I should see name, first and last, hour 3. I still have kids putting a different hour on it. It's painful. Put the page number. Page 46. Put the assignment and put the date. Okay, I'm having a lot of kids, you're putting the wrong hour on it, and it gets mixed up with a different hour, and then you don't put the page number, so I'm like, okay, what is this? Right, and I want to give you credit. I want you to be able to, check you off.